The Ultimate Comeback, From Rock Bottom to Remarkable, written and published by Fearless Audiobook. Introduction. Rock bottom is a place no one plans to visit. It arrives without warning, bringing failure, heartbreak, rejection, financial struggles, shattered dreams, or the painful feeling that life has slipped beyond your control. In those moments, it's easy to believe that your story is over, that you've lost too much, failed too many times, or waited too long to begin again. But history tells a different story. The greatest transformations rarely begin at the top. They begin in the darkest valleys, where hope seems impossible and every step forward feels painfully difficult. The Ultimate Comeback. From rock bottom to remarkable is not just about overcoming setbacks, it's about discovering the strength, wisdom, and purpose hidden inside them. This audiobook will guide you through rebuilding your confidence, healing emotional wounds, changing the beliefs that hold you back, and creating habits that lead to lasting success. Every chapter is a step toward becoming stronger than your circumstances. Your past may explain where you've been, but it never has the authority to decide where you're going. Today is the day your comeback begins, and by the end of this journey, you'll realize that rock bottom wasn't the end of your story. It was the solid foundation for a remarkable new life. Chapter 1. When life falls apart. Life can change in a single moment. One phone call, one unexpected loss, one failed business, one broken relationship, one painful mistake, or one disappointment can leave you standing in a place you never imagined you would be. Yesterday, you felt confident about the future. Today, you're wondering how everything fell apart so quickly. Rock bottom doesn't look the same for everyone. For some, it's losing a career they spent years building. For others, it's watching a relationship end despite giving it everything they had. It might be financial hardship, betrayal from someone you trusted, declining health, or simply waking up every morning with the heavy feeling that you've lost yourself. The hardest part isn't always the event itself. It's the story your mind begins to tell afterward. I'm not good enough. I'll never recover. My best days are behind me. I've failed too many times. These thoughts feel convincing because pain has a way of making temporary circumstances appear permanent. When you're standing in darkness, it's easy to believe the sun has disappeared forever. But darkness has never been permanent. Every night eventually gives way to morning, even when it feels endless. One of the greatest mistakes people make is confusing where they are with who they are. Losing your job doesn't make you a failure. A broken relationship doesn't make you unworthy of love. A financial setback doesn't mean you'll always struggle. A mistake doesn't define your entire character. These are experiences. They are chapters in your life, not the title of your story. Yet many people allow a painful chapter to become their entire identity. They introduce themselves through their disappointments instead of their potential. They stop dreaming because they're afraid of being hurt again. They stop trying because failure feels safer than hope. The truth is, every meaningful comeback begins with acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It doesn't mean the pain disappears. It doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. Acceptance simply means acknowledging reality without allowing it to destroy your future. Imagine trying to climb out of a deep hole while refusing to admit you're inside one. As long as you deny your situation, you can't begin the journey upward. The first step toward recovery is always honesty. Perhaps you're carrying disappointment that no one else can see. Maybe you smile in public while privately wondering how much longer you can keep pretending everything is fine. Many people do exactly that. They become experts at hiding pain behind busy schedules, polite conversations, and forced laughter. But healing begins the moment you stop running from your emotions. Allow yourself to admit that you're hurting. Allow yourself to admit that you're disappointed. Allow yourself to admit that life hasn't gone according to plan. There is tremendous strength in honesty. Too often, society teaches us that strength means never crying, never struggling, and never asking for help. Real strength is different. Real strength is facing reality with courage instead of hiding behind denial. Every successful person has experienced moments when everything seemed to fall apart. The difference isn't that they avoided hardship. The difference is that they refused to let hardship become the final chapter. When a forest burns, it appears completely destroyed. Trees are reduced to ash. The landscape looks lifeless, yet beneath the surface, the soil becomes richer. New seeds begin to grow. Life quietly prepares for another beginning. Human beings are remarkably similar. Sometimes the seasons that appear to destroy us are actually preparing us for a stronger version of ourselves. That doesn't make the pain enjoyable. It doesn't erase the tears. It doesn't remove the loneliness. But it does remind us that suffering and growth often exist side by side. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What can this experience teach me?" That single question shifts your focus from helplessness to possibility. Every setback carries lessons that success rarely teaches. Failure reveals weaknesses that confidence often hides. Disappointment teaches patience. Loss teaches gratitude. Hardship develops resilience that comfort never could. This doesn't mean you should be grateful for every painful experience. It means you can choose not to waste it. No matter how far you've fallen, you still possess something incredibly valuable, the ability to choose your next step. You may not control what happened yesterday. You may not control other people's decisions. You may not control unexpected circumstances. But you always control your response. That response doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't require changing your entire life overnight. Sometimes your next step is simply getting out of bed. Sometimes it's making one phone call. Sometimes it's applying for one opportunity. Sometimes it's forgiving yourself for one mistake. Great comebacks are rarely built through one extraordinary decision. They're built through hundreds of small decisions made consistently, especially on the days when giving up feels easier. As you continue this journey, remember one powerful truth. Rock bottom is not proof that your life is over. It is proof that life has challenged you. And challenges, no matter how painful, are temporary. Your circumstances may have changed, but your value has not. Your confidence may have weakened, but your potential remains. Your dreams may have been delayed, but they have not disappeared. This chapter is not about celebrating hardship. It's about refusing to let hardship steal your future. Because remarkable lives are not built by people who never fall. They are built by people who find the courage to stand up one more time than life knocks them down. And today, with one decision to keep moving forward, your comeback has already begun. Chapter 2. The decision that changes everything. There comes a moment in every comeback story when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of changing. It isn't always dramatic. There are no cheering crowds, no music in the background, and no guarantee that everything will suddenly work out. More often, it's a quiet decision made in the middle of an ordinary day. A decision that says, "I can't keep living like this anymore." This is the moment that changes everything. Many people believe their lives change when they receive an opportunity, meet the right person, or finally catch a lucky break. But the truth is, lasting transformation begins long before any external success appears. It begins with an internal decision. A decision to stop surrendering. A decision to stop waiting. A decision to stop allowing yesterday to control tomorrow. The circumstances around you may remain exactly the same for a while. The bills may still be there. The heartbreak may still hurt. The rejection may still sting. Nothing outside you may appear different. Yet everything inside you has already begun to shift because you've made one powerful choice. You've decided to rise. One of the biggest traps people fall into after experiencing hardship is becoming trapped in a single question. Why me? It's a natural question. When life feels unfair, the mind searches for explanations. Why did this happen? Why did they leave? Why did I lose everything? Why did my hard work not pay off? For a short time, these questions may help us process our emotions. But if we stay there too long, they become a prison. Instead of looking forward, we become obsessed with looking backward. We replay old conversations, relive painful memories, and imagine endless scenarios of what could have been different. The problem is that no amount of replaying the past can rewrite it. Every hour spent wishing yesterday had been different is an hour stolen from building a better tomorrow. There is a far more powerful question. What now? Those two words shift your focus from blame to possibility. Instead of asking why life knocked you down, you begin asking how you're going to stand back up. Instead of searching for someone to blame, you begin searching for your next step. That is where real progress begins. At this point, it's important to understand the difference between responsibility and self-blame. Many people confuse the two. Self-blame sounds like this: I'm a failure. I ruin everything. I'll never be good enough. These thoughts attack your identity. They convince you that because something went wrong, you are fundamentally broken. Responsibility sounds very different. This happened. I can't change the past, but I can choose what I do next. Responsibility is empowering because it places your future back into your own hands. Imagine you're driving down a road when another driver crashes into your car. The accident wasn't your fault. You didn't cause it. Yet if you want to continue your journey, someone still has to repair the damage. Waiting forever for perfect justice won't move the car. At some point, the focus has to shift from asking who caused the accident to deciding how to move forward. Life often works the same way. Some of the pain you've experienced may not have been your fault. Perhaps someone betrayed your trust. Perhaps you were treated unfairly. Perhaps circumstances beyond your control changed everything. Acknowledging those realities is important, but allowing them to permanently define your future gives them even more power than they deserve. Choosing responsibility means refusing to hand over control of your life to your past. This decision doesn't happen only once. It happens every morning. Every day you choose whether to stay in yesterday or build today. Every conversation is a choice. Every habit is a choice. Every reaction is a choice. Every excuse is a choice. The direction of your life is determined less by one extraordinary decision and more by thousands of ordinary decisions made consistently over time. Think about a mountain climber standing at the base of a towering peak. Looking at the summit can feel overwhelming. The distance seems impossible. But experienced climbers don't obsess over the top. They focus on the next safe step. One step becomes another becomes 100. Eventually, the impossible becomes reality. Your comeback follows the same pattern. You don't need every answer today. You don't need your entire 5-year plan. You simply need the courage to take the next right step. That step might be making a difficult phone call. It might be updating your resume. It might be ending a toxic relationship. It might be apologizing for a mistake. It might be asking for help after years of pretending you're fine. Small decisions often carry extraordinary consequences. The world celebrates dramatic victories, but it rarely sees the quiet choices that made those victories possible. Every successful entrepreneur first decided to keep going after failure. Every healthy relationship began with someone choosing vulnerability over fear. Every inspiring comeback started with someone refusing to quit when quitting would have been easier. Your future is not determined by the worst thing that happened to you. It is determined by the decisions you make after it happened. There will still be difficult days. There will still be moments of doubt. Some mornings you may wonder whether you're making progress at all. Keep moving anyway. Progress is not always visible. Just as seeds grow beneath the soil long before anyone sees a flower, your character is growing in ways that cannot yet be measured. Every disciplined choice strengthens your confidence. Every courageous action weakens fear. Every small victory reminds you that change is possible. Never underestimate the power of a single decision repeated every day. Decide to show up. decide to learn, decide to forgive, decide to grow. Decide to believe that your future can become greater than your past. Because the greatest comeback is never created by chance. It is created by choice, and the most important choice you will ever make is the one that says, no matter what happened yesterday, I will not surrender today. Chapter 3. Healing the Invisible Wounds. Some wounds leave scars that everyone can see. A broken arm is wrapped in a cast. A deep cut requires stitches. A bruise eventually fades, reminding you that the body has an incredible ability to heal. But the deepest wounds are often invisible. They exist beneath the surface, hidden behind smiles, busy schedules, and carefully chosen words. Emotional pain doesn't announce itself the way physical pain does, yet it has the power to shape every decision you make. It quietly influences your confidence, your relationships, your dreams, and even the way you see yourself. If these invisible wounds remain untreated, they can become the prison that keeps you from experiencing the remarkable life waiting on the other side of your comeback. Pain has a strange way of changing the stories we tell ourselves. After enough disappointment, the mind begins collecting evidence that supports fear instead of hope. One failure becomes proof that you'll always fail. One rejection convinces you that you're not worthy. One betrayal makes it difficult to trust anyone again. Before long, you're no longer responding to the present moment. You are reacting to old wounds that were never given the chance to heal. This is why two people can experience similar hardships and respond in completely different ways. One becomes stronger while the other remains trapped. The difference often lies not in what happened, but in whether they chose to heal. One of the heaviest burdens people carry is guilt. Guilt can be useful when it reminds us to correct a mistake or become a better person. But unhealthy guilt serves no purpose. It keeps replaying old failures long after the lesson has already been learned. It whispers that because you made a mistake, you deserve to suffer forever. That voice is a liar. Every human being has made decisions they regret. Every successful person has looked back and wished they had handled certain moments differently. Growth doesn't come from endlessly punishing yourself. Growth comes from learning the lesson and refusing to repeat the same mistake. Regret often walks hand in hand with guilt. It invites you to imagine a different version of your life. If only you had accepted that opportunity. If only you had ended that relationship sooner. If only you had spoken different words. If only you had been braver. The imagination becomes trapped inside a world that no longer exists. Yet no amount of regret has ever changed yesterday. The past is a place we can visit for wisdom, but it is a terrible place to live. The longer you remain there, the more of today's opportunities quietly pass you by. Perhaps the most painful invisible wound is self-doubt. It rarely arrives all at once. Instead, it grows slowly through repeated disappointments. Each setback adds another brick to an invisible wall until one day you begin believing that success belongs to everyone except you. You hesitate before trying something new because failure feels inevitable. You remain silent because you're afraid your voice doesn't matter. You settle for less than you're capable of because you've forgotten what confidence feels like. Self-doubt doesn't simply limit your actions, it limits your imagination. You stop believing that a better future is even possible. Healing begins with honesty. Pretending you're fine may fool other people, but it never fools your heart. There is tremendous courage in admitting that you're hurting. There is strength in acknowledging that certain experiences changed you. Accepting your emotional wounds doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. And awareness is always the first step toward healing. You cannot repair what you refuse to recognize. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is self-forgiveness. Many people are willing to forgive friends, family members, and even strangers, yet they refuse to extend the same grace to themselves. They continue carrying mistakes that happened years ago, as though they occurred yesterday. But think about this for a moment. If you've learned from your past, if you've grown wiser because of it, then you are no longer the same person who made those mistakes. Punishing today's version of yourself for yesterday's decisions only delays the future you're trying to build. Consider the story of J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became one of the most beloved book series in history, she experienced years of rejection, financial hardship, and depression. She was a single mother, struggling to make ends meet, and publisher after publisher rejected her manuscript. It would have been easy to conclude that those rejections defined her worth. Instead, she kept believing in the story she carried within her. Those painful years became the foundation of one of the greatest literary success stories of modern times. Her circumstances did not determine her future because she refused to let emotional pain become her permanent identity. Healing also requires patience. Emotional recovery rarely happens overnight. Just as a deep physical wound needs time to close, the heart heals gradually. There will be days when you feel strong and hopeful, followed by days when old memories suddenly return. That doesn't mean you're moving backward. Healing is not a straight line. It is a journey filled with progress, setbacks, learning, and growth. The important thing is to keep moving forward, even when progress feels invisible. As you heal, you'll begin noticing subtle changes. The memories that once controlled your emotions lose their grip. The words that once wounded your confidence no longer define you. The fears that once kept you frozen become smaller with every courageous step you take. Slowly, you begin replacing survival with possibility. You stop asking whether you'll ever recover and start asking what kind of life you want to create. Your emotional wounds may always remain part of your story, but they do not have to remain in control of it. Scars are evidence that healing has taken place. They remind us not only of what we've endured, but also of what we've overcome. Every invisible wound you choose to heal becomes another source of wisdom, compassion, and strength. The remarkable life you're building does not require a perfect past. It requires a healed heart that refuses to let yesterday steal tomorrow. The pain you've carried for so long is not the end of your story. It is simply the place where your transformation begins, and every step you take toward healing brings you one step closer to becoming the person your struggles have been preparing you to become. Chapter 4. Rewriting the story you tell yourself. Every person lives by two stories. The first is the story of what actually happened. The second is the story they tell themselves about what happened. Surprisingly, it is often the second story that has the greatest influence over a person's future. Imagine two people who both lose their jobs on the same day. One tells himself, "This proves I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed again." The other says, "This is painful, but it's also an opportunity to learn, grow, and find a better path." Their circumstances are identical, but their futures begin to move in completely different directions. Not because life treated one person more fairly, but because each person chose a different story. The stories you repeat inside your mind eventually become the beliefs that shape your life. Every day, your mind is engaged in an endless conversation. Even when you're silent, your thoughts continue speaking. They comment on your appearance, your abilities, your mistakes, your relationships, and your future. Over time, those repeated thoughts stop sounding like opinions and start sounding like facts. If you constantly tell yourself that you're incapable, you'll begin acting as if it's true. If you repeatedly believe that you'll never recover, you'll stop looking for opportunities altogether. This is why your inner dialogue matters so much. The voice inside your mind becomes the narrator of your life. If that narrator is always criticizing, doubting, and condemning you, it becomes incredibly difficult to move forward. No one can build a remarkable future while constantly listening to a voice that insists failure is inevitable. Many of these limiting beliefs were never originally yours. They were formed through experiences, criticism, disappointment, or comparisons with others. Perhaps someone once told you that you weren't smart enough, talented enough, or capable enough. Maybe repeated failures convinced you that success belonged to other people, but not to you. Over time, those outside opinions quietly became your own internal beliefs. The danger of limiting beliefs is that they create invisible boundaries. You stop applying for opportunities because you assume you'll be rejected. You avoid pursuing your dreams because you expect disappointment. You stay inside your comfort zone because you've convinced yourself that growth is too risky. The tragedy isn't that these beliefs exist. The tragedy is that many people never question them. Every belief deserves to be challenged. When your mind says, "I always fail," ask yourself, is that completely true? When it whispers, "I'm not good enough," ask, what evidence actually supports that? When fear insists, nothing will ever change. Remember all the times life has already surprised you. Most limiting beliefs begin falling apart the moment they're examined honestly. Replacing fear with possibility doesn't mean pretending life is easy. It doesn't mean ignoring real challenges or convincing yourself that everything will magically work out. It simply means refusing to let fear become the loudest voice in your mind. Fear has one primary goal: to keep you exactly where you are. It tells you that trying is dangerous. It tells you that failure is permanent. It tells you that rejection is unbearable. But fear rarely tells the whole story. It never tells you how much stronger you'll become after facing the challenge. It never tells you how confidence grows through action. It never tells you that courage often appears only after you've taken the first step. Possibility begins where fear ends. Consider the life of Nick Vujicic, who was born without arms and legs. From a young age he faced bullying, loneliness, and overwhelming feelings of hopelessness. He could have accepted the belief that his physical condition defined the rest of his life. Instead, he chose a different story. Rather than asking what he lacked, he focused on what he could contribute. He developed confidence, learned to speak publicly, built meaningful relationships, and eventually inspired millions of people around the world. His greatest limitation was never his body. The greatest battle was the story he refused to believe about himself. The same principle applies to every comeback. Your future is shaped less by your circumstances than by the meaning you attach to those circumstances. Failure can become proof that you should quit, or it can become evidence that you're learning. Rejection can become proof that you're unworthy, or it can become redirection towards something better. Pain can become a permanent prison, or it can become the foundation of wisdom. The meaning is not automatically assigned. You choose it. Changing your story also requires changing your language. Pay attention to the words you use when talking about yourself. Instead of saying, "I can't," ask, "How can I?" Instead of saying, "I'll never recover," say, "I'm still growing." Instead of saying, "I'm a failure," remind yourself, "I experienced failure, but failure is not my identity." These may seem like small changes, but words shape perception, and perception shapes action. The story you repeat every day gradually becomes the reality you create. Of course, simply repeating positive statements without taking action accomplishes very little. Real confidence is built when your actions begin supporting your new beliefs. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. Every challenge you face weakens the grip of old fears. Every small success becomes new evidence that your limiting beliefs were never completely true. Think of your mind as a garden. If you never remove the weeds, they eventually choke the flowers. Negative beliefs work the same way. If left unchallenged, they slowly take over every area of your life. But when you intentionally plant thoughts of growth, resilience, learning, and hope, and reinforce them through consistent action, your mindset begins to transform. This transformation doesn't happen in a single day. It happens through thousands of daily choices. Choosing hope instead of hopelessness. Choosing possibility instead of fear. Choosing progress instead of perfection. Choosing faith instead of doubt. Every remarkable comeback begins long before anyone else notices it. It begins quietly, inside the mind, where an old story finally loses its power and a new one begins to take its place. Your past may explain how you arrived here, but it does not get to write the rest of your story. That responsibility belongs to you. And beginning today, you have the opportunity to become the author of a new chapter, one built not on fear, failure, or limitation, but on courage, growth, and the unshakable belief that your best pages are still waiting to be written. Chapter 5. Finding Hope in the Smallest Victories. One of the biggest reasons people give up on themselves is that they expect transformation to happen all at once. They imagine that one morning they'll wake up completely confident, highly disciplined, and ready to conquer every challenge. When that doesn't happen, they become discouraged. They mistake slow progress for no progress, and before long they convince themselves that change isn't possible. But remarkable comebacks are never built overnight. They are built one small victory at a time. The world celebrates dramatic success stories. It notices the person who loses 50 pounds, builds a successful business, writes a best-selling book, or completely changes their life. What it rarely sees are the hundreds of quiet moments that made those achievements possible. The early mornings, the difficult choices, the repeated failures, the ordinary days when no one was watching. Every extraordinary result begins with an ordinary decision. When you're standing at rock bottom, it's easy to believe that your goals are too far away. The distance between where you are and where you want to be can feel overwhelming. You may wonder how you'll ever rebuild your confidence, repair your finances, restore your relationships, or create a meaningful future. The answer is simpler than most people expect. You don't have to change your entire life today. You only have to win today. A comeback isn't built by making one giant leap. It's built by taking one small step, then another, and another after that. Small victories may seem insignificant in the moment, but they have a remarkable ability to create momentum. Each success, no matter how small, sends a powerful message to your mind. I kept my promise. I finished what I started. I am capable of moving forward. These messages slowly replace years of doubt and disappointment. Confidence doesn't suddenly appear before action. Confidence grows because of action. This is one of the greatest misunderstandings people have about success. They wait until they feel confident before taking action. In reality, confident people become confident because they continue taking action even when they feel uncertain. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. No one starts with perfect balance. Every child falls, gets back up, and tries again. The first few meters may seem small, but they represent something much greater. They prove that improvement is possible. Each successful attempt builds the courage needed for the next one. Life works exactly the same way. Every small promise you keep to yourself strengthens your belief that you're becoming someone reliable. Every healthy meal is a vote for a healthier future. Every page you read is a vote for becoming wiser. Every workout is a vote for becoming stronger. Every difficult conversation is a vote for becoming braver. Your future isn't shaped by one extraordinary moment. It's shaped by the small decisions you repeat every single day. Too many people become trapped by perfection. They believe that if they can't do something perfectly, there's no point in doing it at all. They miss one workout and decide to quit exercising altogether. They make one financial mistake and give up on budgeting. They have one difficult day and conclude that they've failed. Perfection is an impossible standard. Progress is a realistic one. The goal isn't to become perfect. The goal is to become slightly better than yesterday. Imagine placing one brick on the ground. It doesn't look impressive. No one would call it a house. But if you continue laying one brick every day with patience and consistency, eventually you'll have walls, then rooms, then an entire home. No single brick deserves all the credit, yet every brick matters. Your habits work in exactly the same way. Every positive choice may seem too small to matter, but small choices repeated consistently become life-changing results. Author James Clear, in his work on habits, introduced a simple but powerful idea. Improving by just 1% each day may seem insignificant, but over time, those tiny improvements compound into extraordinary growth. A 1% improvement is almost invisible in a single day. Yet after months and years of consistency, those small gains create dramatic differences. The same principle applies in reverse. Tiny negative habits, repeated every day, gradually move a person further away from the life they truly want. This is why consistency always defeats motivation. Motivation is emotional. Consistency is intentional. Motivation comes and goes. Some mornings you'll feel energized and excited. Other mornings you'll feel tired, discouraged, or distracted. If your progress depends entirely on how you feel, your results will always be unpredictable. Consistency doesn't ask how you feel. It simply asks whether you'll keep your commitment. The people who achieve remarkable comebacks are not always the most talented or the most motivated. They are often the most consistent. They continue showing up long after the excitement has disappeared. They continue learning after making mistakes. They continue believing after experiencing disappointment. That consistency becomes their greatest strength. Another important lesson is learning to celebrate progress. Many people reach meaningful milestones without ever allowing themselves to appreciate them. They immediately move the finish line farther away. Instead of recognizing how much they've grown, they focus only on how far they still have to go. Take a moment to recognize your victories. Perhaps you're handling stress better than you did a year ago. Perhaps you've started believing in yourself again. Perhaps you've ended a toxic relationship. Perhaps you've developed healthier habits. These achievements deserve acknowledgement. Celebrating progress doesn't make you complacent. It reminds you that growth is happening. There will still be difficult days. Some mornings you'll feel as though nothing is changing. Old fears may return. Setbacks may temporarily slow your progress. During those moments, remember this truth. Momentum isn't destroyed by one bad day. It's destroyed only when you decide to stop moving. Keep taking the next step. Keep honoring the next promise. Keep choosing growth over comfort. One small victory may not seem remarkable today, but tomorrow it becomes confidence. Next month it becomes discipline. Next year it becomes transformation. And eventually you'll look back and realize that the remarkable life you once dreamed about wasn't built through one extraordinary breakthrough. It was built through hundreds of ordinary victories that together created an extraordinary comeback. Never underestimate the power of a single step forward, because every remarkable comeback is simply a collection of small victories that refused to stop growing. Chapter 6. Becoming stronger than your circumstances. Life has a way of testing every person. No one escapes difficulty forever. Some people face financial hardship, others experience heartbreak, illness, rejection, betrayal, or failure. Challenges come in different forms, but they all ask the same question. Will this experience define you, or will it develop you? At first, that question may seem unfair. When life becomes difficult, most of us don't feel stronger. We feel exhausted. We feel disappointed. We wonder why the road has become so difficult when we've already endured so much. But resilience is rarely born in moments of comfort. It is built during the seasons we never would have chosen for ourselves. Many people believe resilience is something you're either born with or without. They look at mentally strong individuals and assume they simply have a different personality. The truth is far more encouraging. Resilience is not a personality trait. It is a skill, and like every skill, it becomes stronger through practice. Think about a blacksmith forging a sword. The metal is repeatedly placed into intense heat, then hammered over and over again. If the steel could speak, it might describe the process as painful, unfair, and relentless. Yet every strike makes it stronger. Without the fire and the pressure, the sword would remain weak and brittle. Human character develops in much the same way. The difficult seasons of life shape qualities that comfort never can. Patience grows when things take longer than expected. Courage develops when fear is present, but action continues anyway. Wisdom often comes from mistakes rather than success. Compassion is usually learned by experiencing pain ourselves. These qualities cannot be purchased, borrowed, or inherited. They are earned through experience. This doesn't mean you should seek suffering or pretend that pain is enjoyable. Difficult experiences are exactly that, difficult. They bring uncertainty, frustration, and moments when giving up feels easier than moving forward. But every challenge carries within it the possibility of becoming stronger if you're willing to learn instead of surrender. One of the greatest differences between people who remain stuck and those who experience remarkable comebacks is how they interpret adversity. Some people ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Others ask, "What is this teaching me?" The first question focuses on victimhood. The second focuses on growth. That simple shift in perspective changes everything. Imagine two trees growing in different environments. One grows inside a greenhouse where the temperature is always perfect, the wind never blows, and every condition is carefully controlled. The other grows on a mountainside where it faces storms, harsh winds, and changing seasons. Which tree develops deeper roots? The answer is obvious. The tree exposed to challenges grows stronger because it has no other choice. Every storm forces its roots deeper into the ground. Every difficult season prepares it to withstand the next one. People grow in much the same way. The challenges you've survived have already strengthened you in ways you may not fully recognize. Think about who you were 5 years ago. You've learned lessons you didn't know then. You've survived days you once believed were impossible. You've overcome obstacles that seemed overwhelming at the time. At the moment, those experiences felt like setbacks. Looking back, many of them became turning points. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is learning from failure instead of fearing it. Failure has an unfair reputation. Society often treats failure as something shameful, something to hide or avoid at all costs. But failure is one of life's greatest teachers. Every mistake contains valuable information. It reveals weaknesses you didn't know existed. It exposes habits that need improvement. It teaches humility. It encourages creativity. It forces adaptation. Success often confirms what you already know. Failure teaches what you still need to learn. The problem isn't failing. The problem is refusing to learn. Imagine trying to learn a new language. Would you expect to speak fluently after making no mistakes? Of course not. Every incorrect pronunciation, every awkward sentence, and every misunderstanding becomes part of the learning process. Life follows the same principle. Growth requires mistakes because mistakes provide feedback. Unfortunately, many people allow failure to become part of their identity. They stop saying, "I failed." Instead, they begin saying, "I am a failure." Those two statements are completely different. One describes an event, the other defines a person. Never confuse the two. You are not your worst decision. You are not your greatest disappointment. You are not your biggest mistake. Those moments happened, they shaped you, but they do not own you. Another essential part of resilience is becoming comfortable with discomfort. Most meaningful growth happens just outside your comfort zone. Learning a new skill feels awkward. Starting a business feels uncertain. Having difficult conversations feels uncomfortable. Changing unhealthy habits requires discipline. Building confidence requires facing situations that once frightened you. Discomfort is not a warning that you're moving in the wrong direction. Often, it's evidence that you're growing. Athletes understand this principle well. Stronger muscles are built by placing the body under controlled stress. Every workout creates tiny tears within the muscle fibers. During recovery, those fibers rebuild stronger than before. Without resistance, there is no growth. Your mind follows a similar pattern. Every challenge you face strengthens your emotional resilience. Every difficult decision builds character. Every obstacle overcome increases confidence. This doesn't happen instantly. It happens gradually. There will still be moments when you doubt yourself. There will still be setbacks. There will still be days when progress feels invisible. Those moments don't erase your growth. They simply become part of it. One important lesson resilience teaches is that you don't need to control everything to remain strong. Life will always contain uncertainty. Unexpected changes will happen. Plans will fail. People will disappoint you. Opportunities may disappear without warning. You cannot control every event, but you can control your response. That response becomes your greatest source of power. Instead of resisting every unexpected challenge, learn to adapt. Water offers a beautiful example of resilience. It doesn't argue with obstacles. When it encounters a rock, it flows around it. When blocked in one direction, it quietly finds another path. It remains persistent without becoming rigid. There is wisdom in that approach. Being resilient doesn't mean refusing to bend. It means refusing to break. The strongest people are not those who never experience hardship. They are those who continue moving forward despite hardship. They adjust their plans without abandoning their purpose. They remain hopeful without denying reality. They acknowledge pain without allowing pain to become their identity. As your comeback continues, remember that resilience is not measured by how many times life knocks you down. It is measured by your willingness to rise each time with greater wisdom than before. Every obstacle you've faced has been preparing you. Every disappointment has been teaching you. Every setback has been strengthening you. One day you'll look back on this season and realize something remarkable. The challenges you once believed were destroying your life were quietly building the person capable of creating the life you truly wanted. Your circumstances may test your strength. They may delay your progress. They may force you to change your plans. But they can never determine your destiny unless you allow them to. Because your greatest strength is not found in living an easy life. It is found in becoming the kind of person who refuses to let difficult circumstances have the final word. And when that strength becomes part of who you are, no setback can stop your comeback. Chapter 7. Letting go of what holds you back. One of the hardest truths about a comeback is this. Sometimes the greatest obstacle isn't the future you're trying to build, it's the past you're unwilling to release. Many people spend years trying to move forward while carrying the emotional weight of old failures, broken relationships, painful memories, resentment, and regret. They want a new life, but they keep dragging yesterday into today. No matter how determined you are, it's difficult to climb a mountain while carrying unnecessary baggage. Letting go is often misunderstood. Many people think it means pretending something never happened or convincing yourself that the pain wasn't real. It doesn't. Letting go simply means deciding that what happened will no longer control who you become. The memory may remain, but its power over your life begins to fade. You stop allowing yesterday's pain to make today's decisions. One of the biggest things people struggle to release is toxic relationships. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people enter your life to encourage your growth, while others slowly drain your confidence, your peace, and your sense of purpose. The difficult part is that toxic relationships rarely begin in obvious ways. They often start with affection, excitement, or familiarity. Over time, however, they become filled with criticism, manipulation, dishonesty, or constant negativity. Remaining in an unhealthy environment eventually changes the way you see yourself. If you're constantly surrounded by people who doubt you, belittle your dreams, or remind you of your failures, it's easy to begin believing those opinions. The voices around you eventually become the voice inside your own mind. That's why protecting your environment is so important. Growth becomes much easier when you're surrounded by people who encourage honesty, responsibility, and hope. Letting go also means releasing habits that quietly keep you trapped. Every habit is building your future, whether you realize it or not. Some habits move you closer to the person you want to become. Others slowly pull you away from that vision. Procrastination, constant complaining, unhealthy routines, endless comparison, and negative thinking may seem harmless in small doses, but over time they quietly shape the direction of your life. The difficult truth is that habits don't disappear simply because you want them to. They disappear when they're replaced by better ones. Nature dislikes empty space. If you remove a harmful habit without replacing it, the old behavior often returns. That's why lasting change requires building healthier routines rather than relying only on willpower. Another burden many people carry is resentment. Few emotions consume more energy than holding on to anger. When someone hurts you deeply, your first instinct may be to replay the experience again and again. You remember every word, every disappointment, every betrayal. The mind convinces you that by holding on to the pain, you're somehow protecting yourself from being hurt again. But resentment doesn't punish the person who caused the pain, it punishes the person carrying it. Imagine holding a heavy backpack every day for years. At first, you notice the weight. Eventually, you become so accustomed to carrying it that you forget what life feels like without it. Then one day someone invites you to set it down. At first it feels unfamiliar. But once you do, you realize how much energy had been wasted carrying something you were never meant to hold forever. Resentment works exactly the same way. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as well. Forgiveness does not mean excusing harmful behavior. It doesn't mean forgetting what happened or pretending justice doesn't matter. Forgiveness means refusing to allow another person's actions to permanently control your emotional well-being. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. A remarkable example of this is Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years in prison, he emerged with every reason to be consumed by bitterness. Instead, he chose forgiveness over revenge. He understood that if he walked out of prison still carrying hatred, he would remain emotionally imprisoned even after his physical freedom. His decision to let go of resentment helped unite a divided nation and demonstrated extraordinary emotional strength. His forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was freedom. Another invisible barrier to growth is the victim mindset. Experiencing pain does not make someone a victim. Remaining convinced that life has permanently stolen your ability to grow does. The victim mindset sounds convincing because it focuses entirely on what has happened to you. It constantly reminds you of unfair circumstances, difficult people, missed opportunities, and painful experiences. While many of those experiences are real, living inside them forever quietly hands over control of your future. There is an important difference between acknowledging your pain and building your identity around it. Acknowledging pain allows healing. Building your identity around pain prevents it. People with a growth mindset ask different questions. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" they ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of focusing on what they've lost, they begin looking for what can still be built. That shift may seem small, but it completely changes the direction of a person's life. Letting go also requires accepting that closure doesn't always come from other people. Sometimes you'll never receive the apology you deserve. Sometimes you'll never fully understand why someone treated you unfairly. Sometimes relationships end without satisfying explanations. Waiting for perfect closure can keep you emotionally trapped for years. Real closure often begins the moment you decide that your healing no longer depends on someone else's actions. You choose peace. You choose freedom. You choose to stop giving yesterday authority over tomorrow. This doesn't happen overnight. There will be moments when old memories return. Certain places, conversations, or songs may remind you of painful experiences. Healing is rarely linear. But every time you consciously choose peace over resentment, growth over bitterness, and hope over despair, you weaken the chains that once held you back. Your future deserves your full attention. The remarkable life you're building requires emotional space for new relationships, new opportunities, new dreams, and new purpose. None of those can fully grow while your hands remain tightly wrapped around what should have been released long ago. Sometimes the bravest thing you will ever do is not fighting harder. Sometimes it's finally opening your hands. Because when you let go of everything that no longer serves your future, you make room for everything that does. And that is where true freedom begins. Chapter 8. Reinventing the person in the mirror. Every remarkable comeback eventually reaches a turning point. It is the moment when you stop trying to return to the person you used to be and begin creating the person you were meant to become. Many people spend years wishing they could go back to life before the failure, before the heartbreak, before the disappointment, or before everything fell apart. But growth doesn't happen by going backward. It happens by becoming someone new. One of the greatest mistakes people make after experiencing hardship is believing that their comeback is simply about recovering what they lost. They want the same job, the same relationship, the same lifestyle, or the same version of themselves. But sometimes life doesn't ask you to rebuild the old chapter. Sometimes it invites you to write a completely different one. Reinvention begins with identity. Most people focus on changing their circumstances. They want more money, better health, stronger relationships, or greater success. Those are worthwhile goals, but lasting transformation doesn't begin with goals. It begins with identity. Ask yourself a simple question: who do I need to become to create the life I want? Not what do I need to have, not where do I need to go, who do I need to become? Your identity influences every decision you make. If you see yourself as someone who always quits, you'll eventually stop trying when life becomes difficult. If you believe you're incapable of success, you'll unconsciously avoid opportunities that could prove otherwise. But when you begin seeing yourself as someone who is resilient, disciplined, honest, and courageous, your actions naturally begin aligning with that new identity. The person you become determines the life you create. Imagine an architect preparing to build a house. Before a single brick is laid, a blueprint already exists. Every room, every wall, every window has been carefully designed long before construction begins. Your identity works like that blueprint. Your daily actions are simply the visible construction of what you already believe about yourself. If your blueprint says, "I'm unreliable," your actions will eventually support that belief. If your blueprint says, "I'm capable of learning and growing," your actions begin reflecting that belief instead. Changing your identity doesn't happen by repeating empty affirmations. It happens by keeping small promises to yourself. Every promise you keep becomes evidence that your new identity is real. When you wake up early, even though you wanted to sleep longer, you become a disciplined person. When you speak honestly, despite fear, you become a courageous person. When you continue after failure instead of giving up, you become a resilient person. Identity is built through repeated action, not wishful thinking. Many people wait until they feel different before changing their behavior. Successful people reverse the process. They change their behavior first. The feelings eventually follow. Consider someone learning to play the piano. During the first few weeks, they don't feel like a musician. Their fingers make mistakes. Progress seems painfully slow. Yet every practice session quietly shapes their identity. One day they no longer think of themselves as someone trying to learn music. They simply become a musician. The same principle applies to every area of life. You don't become confident before taking courageous action. You become confident because you've repeatedly taken courageous action. One important part of reinvention is refusing to let your past introduce you. Too many people continue defining themselves by mistakes they made years ago. I failed. I was rejected. I made poor decisions. Those experiences happened, but they are descriptions of moments, not definitions of identity. Imagine meeting someone who constantly introduces themselves by their worst mistake. It would seem strange. Yet internally, many people do exactly that every single day. They wake up remembering who they used to be instead of focusing on who they're becoming. Your future deserves a better introduction. Another essential part of reinvention is aligning your life with your values. Success without purpose eventually feels empty. Wealth without integrity brings little satisfaction. Achievement without character often creates insecurity instead of fulfillment. Values become your internal compass. They guide your decisions when emotions become confusing. Ask yourself what truly matters: honesty, kindness, discipline, growth, faith, family, service. When your daily decisions align with your deepest values, your confidence naturally grows because you're living in harmony with who you truly want to become. There will always be pressure to imitate other people's lives. Social media makes comparison almost unavoidable. Every day you're shown someone else's achievements, vacations, promotions, relationships, or success stories. Without realizing it, you begin measuring your life against theirs. Comparison quietly steals contentment. It convinces you that you're behind. It distracts you from your own journey. Remember this: you are not called to become someone else. You are called to become the best version of yourself. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs the person only you can become. Reinvention also requires courage, because becoming someone new often means leaving behind familiar versions of yourself. Friends may not understand your new priorities. Old habits will try pulling you backward. Comfortable routines will tempt you to stay the same. Growth almost always feels uncomfortable before it feels rewarding. That's normal. Every butterfly must leave the safety of its cocoon. Every tree must push through the darkness before reaching sunlight. Every meaningful transformation requires leaving something behind. Don't be afraid if your life begins changing. Change is often evidence that growth is taking place. As your identity strengthens, you'll notice something remarkable. The things that once seemed impossible begin feeling achievable. The fears that once controlled you lose their influence. The approval you once desperately sought becomes less important. Your confidence no longer depends on other people's opinions because it comes from knowing the person you're becoming. Eventually, you'll look into the mirror and see someone different. Not because your appearance has changed, but because your character has. You'll see someone who survived difficult seasons without losing hope. Someone who chose discipline over excuses. Someone who turned pain into wisdom. Someone who stopped waiting for life to change and instead became the reason life changed. That is the true meaning of reinvention. Your comeback was never just about recovering what you lost. It was always about becoming someone greater than you ever imagined possible. And the remarkable person staring back at you in the mirror isn't someone you'll discover by accident. It's someone you'll create, one decision, one habit, and one courageous step at a time. Chapter 9. Building the life you once thought was impossible. There comes a moment in every comeback when surviving is no longer enough. The pain has begun to heal. Your confidence is slowly returning. The person in the mirror is no longer defined by the past. Now a different question begins to emerge. What kind of life do I want to build? This is where many people hesitate. They believe that extraordinary lives are reserved for extraordinary people. They look at successful entrepreneurs, respected leaders, inspiring artists, or happy families and assume those lives were created by talent, luck, or perfect circumstances. But if you study the lives of people who have built something meaningful, you'll discover a common truth. They didn't create remarkable lives through one extraordinary decision. They built them through ordinary habits repeated consistently over many years. Your future is not created once a year when you make ambitious resolutions. It is created every day through the choices you repeat. Every habit is quietly casting a vote for the person you're becoming. When you choose to read instead of endlessly scrolling through distractions, you're investing in wisdom. When you exercise, even on days you don't feel motivated, you're investing in strength. When you save money instead of spending impulsively, you're investing in freedom. When you choose kindness instead of anger, you're investing in healthier relationships. Every small decision seems insignificant on its own. Together, they shape your destiny. Many people underestimate the power of routines because routines appear ordinary. They aren't exciting. They rarely receive applause. No one celebrates waking up early, preparing healthy meals, writing one page, or studying for an hour. Yet those simple actions, repeated over months and years, create extraordinary results. Think about a river flowing across solid rock. Water appears soft and powerless. A single drop seems incapable of making any difference. Yet over decades, constant flowing water carves deep valleys through mountains. Not because of incredible force, but because of relentless consistency. Success follows the same principle. Consistency always outperforms intensity. Doing something extraordinary once may inspire you. Doing something ordinary every day transforms you. One reason people abandon good habits is because they expect immediate rewards. They begin exercising and expect dramatic changes within a week. They start reading books and expect instant wisdom. They begin saving money and hope to feel financially secure overnight. When those immediate results fail to appear, discouragement arrives. But life rarely rewards us instantly. Most meaningful rewards are delayed. The seeds you plant today become tomorrow's harvest. Imagine planting a tree. During the first few weeks, very little appears to happen above the ground. If you judge the process only by what you could see, you might believe nothing was growing. Yet beneath the surface, roots are spreading quietly, creating the foundation necessary for future growth. Your habits work exactly the same way. For a while, the results remain invisible. Then one day, people begin noticing the confidence you've developed, the knowledge you've gained, the discipline you've built, the peace you've discovered. What they don't see are the countless ordinary days that made those visible results possible. One of the greatest obstacles to building an extraordinary life is waiting for motivation. Motivation is wonderful when it appears, but it is completely unreliable. Some mornings you'll feel inspired, other mornings you'll feel exhausted. Some days you'll believe anything is possible, other days you'll question everything. If your habits depend on your emotions, your progress will always be unpredictable. Discipline is different. Discipline says, "I'll do what matters whether I feel like it or not." That may sound difficult. In reality, it creates freedom. Imagine brushing your teeth every morning. You probably don't negotiate with yourself about whether you should do it. It's simply part of your routine. The same can become true for every positive habit. The more consistently you practice it, the less energy it requires. Eventually, discipline becomes your lifestyle instead of your struggle. Another important lesson is learning to protect your time. Time is the one resource every person receives equally. Rich or poor, young or old, everyone is given 24 hours each day. The difference lies in how those hours are invested. Successful people understand that saying yes to one thing often means saying no to something else. Saying yes to learning may require saying no to endless entertainment. Saying yes to health may require saying no to unhealthy comforts. Saying yes to your dreams may require saying no to distractions. Every meaningful achievement requires sacrifice. The question isn't whether you'll make sacrifices. The question is whether you're sacrificing what you truly want for what you merely want right now. Building a remarkable life also requires intentional planning. Too many people spend their lives reacting instead of creating. They wait for opportunities instead of preparing for them. They allow circumstances to determine their direction instead of choosing one themselves. You don't have to know every detail of your future, but you should know the direction you're walking. Imagine boarding a ship without choosing a destination. No matter how beautiful the vessel may be, it will drift wherever the current carries it. Life works the same way. Without clear direction, distractions begin making decisions for you. Ask yourself regularly, who am I becoming? What habits support that person? What habits are pulling me away from that vision? Those simple questions keep your life aligned with your purpose. Of course, difficult seasons will still come. There will be days when routines are interrupted, plans change, and unexpected problems appear. During those moments, remember that missing one day doesn't erase months of progress. Don't allow one setback to become a reason for quitting. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is returning quickly. Every comeback includes moments when you'll stumble again. The difference now is that you've learned how to stand back up. You no longer expect an easy road. You expect yourself to keep walking. There is also great power in surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to grow. The environment around you quietly shapes your habits. If everyone around you settles for mediocrity, maintaining high standards becomes difficult. But when you're surrounded by people who value growth, integrity, discipline, and purpose, excellence begins feeling normal. Choose relationships that strengthen your future instead of reminding you of your past. Choose conversations that inspire action instead of endless complaining. Choose mentors who encourage responsibility rather than excuses. Every environment is teaching you something. Choose wisely. As your habits become stronger, you'll notice something remarkable. The life that once seemed impossible begins feeling natural. The routines that once required enormous effort become automatic. The confidence you once admired in others quietly becomes your own. You stop waiting for opportunities because you've become prepared for them. You stop chasing quick success because you've learned the value of steady progress. You stop fearing the future because your daily actions are creating it. One day, you'll pause and realize you've become someone your past self would barely recognize. Not because one extraordinary event changed everything, but because hundreds of ordinary days quietly transformed your life. Every sunrise gave you another chance to choose growth. Every habit became another brick in the foundation of your future. Every difficult decision strengthened your character, and piece by piece, day by day, you built the life you once believed was impossible. That is how remarkable lives are created. Not through luck, not through shortcuts, but through intentional choices, repeated faithfully until the impossible slowly becomes your reality. Chapter 10. Turning your pain into purpose. Pain has a way of asking difficult questions. It asks whether you'll allow your suffering to become the end of your story or the beginning of a new one. It asks whether your scars will remain reminders of what you lost or become evidence of what you survived. Every person experiences pain, but not every person discovers purpose within it. The difference is not found in the amount of suffering they endured. It is found in the meaning they chose to give it. When you're in the middle of a painful season, purpose is often the last thing on your mind. You're simply trying to make it through the day. You're focused on healing, surviving, and finding enough strength to take the next step. That is completely natural. No one expects a seed to become a tree overnight. In the same way, purpose often grows quietly beneath the surface while healing is taking place. Many people spend years asking, "Why did this happen to me?" It's an understandable question, especially when life feels unfair. But eventually, another question becomes far more powerful. What can I do because this happened to me? That question changes everything. Instead of remaining trapped by your past, you begin looking for ways to transform it into something meaningful. You stop seeing yourself only as someone who suffered and begin seeing yourself as someone who has something valuable to offer. Your experiences become more than memories. They become lessons, wisdom, and encouragement for others who are walking through similar struggles. Think about the people who have inspired you the most. Chances are they didn't inspire you because they lived perfect lives. They inspired you because they overcame imperfect ones. Their courage became believable because it was tested. Their advice carried weight because it was earned through experience. People are often moved less by someone's success than by the journey that led to it. Your struggles have given you a perspective that no classroom can teach. Someone who has overcome anxiety understands fear differently. Someone who has rebuilt after financial failure understands perseverance differently. Someone who has survived heartbreak understands compassion differently. Someone who has experienced loss understands the value of hope differently. These experiences become part of your greatest contribution. One of the most beautiful truths about life is that your deepest wounds often prepare you to heal someone else's. The comfort you needed during your darkest days may one day become the comfort you offer another person. The wisdom you gained through failure may help someone avoid giving up. The encouragement you once longed to hear may become the words that change another person's life. Purpose is rarely discovered by avoiding pain. It is often discovered by walking through it. This doesn't mean every painful experience happens for a specific reason that we can immediately understand. Life is far more complicated than that. Some tragedies remain difficult to explain. Some losses leave questions that are never fully answered. But even when we cannot control what happened, we can still choose how we respond to it. Our response has the power to create meaning. Consider the life of Oprah Winfrey. Her childhood was marked by poverty, abuse, and extraordinary hardship. By almost every measure, her circumstances suggested a difficult future. Yet she refused to let those painful experiences become the final definition of her life. Instead, she transformed her story into a source of empathy, connection, and hope. Through her honesty and compassion, she inspired millions of people around the world. Her pain did not disappear, but it became the foundation of a purpose far greater than the suffering itself. That is the remarkable power of transformation. The very experience that once made you feel broken can eventually become the reason someone else finds hope. Sometimes we underestimate the influence of our own story because we're too close to it. We think our struggles are ordinary or unimportant. We assume no one could possibly learn from our experiences. But someone who is facing today what you survived yesterday may desperately need to hear that recovery is possible. Never underestimate the value of your testimony. People connect with authenticity. They trust honesty. They remember courage. Your scars may become the proof that healing is possible. Another important part of purpose is recognizing that helping others also helps you continue healing. When you encourage someone, you remind yourself of the lessons you've learned. When you offer hope, you strengthen your own hope. Service has a remarkable way of giving painful experiences new meaning. Purpose doesn't always require a large audience. You don't need millions of followers. You don't need global recognition. Sometimes purpose looks like encouraging one friend, listening to someone who feels alone, mentoring a younger colleague, volunteering in your community, being the person you once needed. Small acts of kindness often create impacts far greater than we ever realize. As your life begins serving others, you'll notice something extraordinary. The painful chapters that once filled you with shame begin filling you with gratitude. Not because the suffering was enjoyable, but because you can finally see how much strength it produced within you. Your scars stop feeling like weaknesses. They become reminders of resilience. Your failures stop feeling like permanent defeats. They become valuable lessons. Your setbacks stop looking like wasted years. They become preparation. Purpose also protects you from becoming trapped by success alone. Success asks, what can I achieve? Purpose asks, who can I help? Success may satisfy ambition for a season, but purpose creates lasting fulfillment. It reminds you that life becomes most meaningful when what you've learned is shared with others. One day, someone will ask how you found the strength to keep going when everything seemed to be falling apart. You'll smile, not because the journey was easy, but because you'll realize that your greatest struggles became your greatest teachers. The pain you once wished would disappear became the very thing that shaped your compassion, your wisdom, your resilience, and your character. Your comeback was never only about rebuilding your own life. It was also about becoming a light for someone who still believes they're trapped in darkness. Because when pain finds purpose, it loses the power to define you. Instead, it becomes the reason someone else discovers the courage to begin their own remarkable comeback. Chapter 11. Living Beyond Survival. There comes a point in every comeback when healing is no longer the goal. Survival has served its purpose. You've learned to stand again after being knocked down. You've rebuilt your confidence, developed resilience, and begun creating a meaningful future. But now, life asks a different question. Are you merely existing, or are you truly living? Many people survive for years without ever feeling alive. They wake up, go through the motions, complete their responsibilities, and end each day exhausted. They become so focused on avoiding pain that they forget to pursue joy. They become so determined to protect themselves from disappointment that they stop opening their hearts to new experiences. Without realizing it, they trade a meaningful life for a predictable one. Survival is necessary during difficult seasons, but it was never meant to become your permanent way of living. Imagine a bird that spends years inside a cage. One day, the door is finally opened. Freedom is available, yet the bird hesitates. The cage has become familiar. It may not be comfortable, but it feels safe. Stepping into the unknown requires courage. Many people live the same way. Even after healing begins, they remain emotionally trapped inside old fears, limiting beliefs, and painful memories. They continue expecting disappointment because disappointment has become familiar. They keep waiting for something to go wrong because life taught them to anticipate the worst. Living beyond survival begins when you stop allowing fear to make every decision. Fear has protected you in the past, but if you continue listening to it forever, it will also prevent you from experiencing the life you've worked so hard to rebuild. One of the greatest characteristics of people who truly thrive is gratitude. Gratitude is not pretending that life is perfect. It is choosing to recognize the good that still exists, even during imperfect seasons. Every life contains both blessings and burdens. The difference lies in where your attention spends most of its time. When you constantly focus on what is missing, you'll always feel incomplete. When you begin appreciating what remains, your perspective starts changing. Gratitude doesn't erase hardship. It changes how you carry it. Think about sunlight entering a dark room through a small window. The darkness doesn't disappear all at once, but even a little light changes the atmosphere completely. Gratitude works in much the same way. It quietly shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to appreciation, from hopelessness to possibility. A grateful person notices simple things that others overlook: a peaceful morning, a sincere conversation, A healthy body that continues healing, a second chance, a lesson learned through failure, the opportunity to begin again. These moments may seem ordinary. Together, they create an extraordinary life. Living beyond survival also means investing deeply in relationships. Success loses much of its meaning when there's no one to share it with. Human beings are created for connection. We all need people who encourage us, challenge us, celebrate our victories, and stand beside us during difficult seasons. As you continue your comeback, pay close attention to the quality of your relationships. Do they bring peace or constant drama? Do they encourage growth or reinforce old habits? Do they remind you of your potential or your past? Healthy relationships become places where both people continue growing together. They are built on honesty, respect, forgiveness, trust, and mutual encouragement. Just as important is your relationship with yourself. For years, you may have been your own harshest critic. Every mistake became another reason to doubt yourself. Every setback became another excuse to believe you weren't enough. But living beyond survival requires developing self-compassion. Self-compassion isn't making excuses. It isn't lowering your standards. It means treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer someone you deeply love. You can acknowledge your mistakes without destroying your confidence. You can recognize your weaknesses while still believing in your potential. You can continue growing without constantly condemning yourself. Inner peace grows from this balance. It comes from accepting that you're a work in progress, not a finished product. Another important step toward truly living is learning to be present. Too often we spend our lives mentally living somewhere else. We replay yesterday's regrets or worry endlessly about tomorrow's uncertainties. Meanwhile, today's opportunities quietly pass us by. The present moment is where life actually happens. It's where conversations become memories. It's where habits become character. It's where ordinary moments become meaningful. You cannot change yesterday. You cannot fully control tomorrow. But you can choose how you live today. That choice is more powerful than most people realize. Consider the story of Aaron Ralston, the mountaineer who became trapped by a massive boulder while hiking alone. After enduring several days without rescue, he made the unimaginable decision to amputate his own arm in order to survive. It was a life-changing tragedy, but it did not become the end of his story. Instead of allowing despair to define him, he embraced gratitude for simply being alive. He continued climbing, inspiring millions through his resilience and reminding the world that even after profound loss, life can still be filled with purpose, adventure, and joy. His story reminds us that survival is only the beginning. Real living begins when we embrace the gift of the life we've been given. Living beyond survival also means allowing yourself to dream again. Pain often convinces people that dreaming is dangerous because dreams can be disappointed. But a life without hope gradually becomes a life without direction. Dream carefully. Dream courageously. Dream with wisdom. Your comeback wasn't meant to bring you back to an ordinary existence. It was meant to awaken possibilities you once believed were impossible. As you continue this journey, don't measure your life only by achievements. Measure it by peace, by growth, by love, by integrity, by kindness, by the lives you've touched. Those are the treasures that remain long after titles, possessions, and accomplishments fade away. One day you'll realize that the greatest victory wasn't simply overcoming your struggles. It was becoming someone who could smile again without pretending. Someone who could trust again without fear controlling every decision. Someone who could wake up with hope instead of anxiety. Someone who could enjoy the present instead of constantly escaping into the past or worrying about the future. That is what living beyond survival truly means. Your comeback was never just about surviving the storm. It was about discovering that after the storm, the sun still rises, new seasons still arrive, and life still offers countless reasons to smile. And once you learn to live with gratitude, purpose, peace, and hope, you'll understand that the most remarkable part of your comeback isn't what you escaped from. It's the beautiful life you finally learned to embrace. Chapter 12. Your greatest comeback begins today. There is a moment in every life when the past stops being a prison and starts becoming a lesson. That moment does not arrive with applause. It does not announce itself with perfect timing or ideal circumstances. It comes quietly, in the middle of ordinary life, when you finally decide that your story will not end in defeat. This is that moment. This is the beginning of your greatest comeback. For too long, you may have looked back at what was lost, the opportunities that slipped away, the mistakes that still haunt you, the years that felt wasted, the relationships that broke your heart, the dreams that seemed to die before they ever had a chance to live. It is natural to grieve those things. It is human to remember them. But it is not wise to live there forever. The past can teach you, but it should not rule you. You are allowed to close the door on what broke you and open another one toward what will build you. A remarkable life is not created by pretending pain never happened. It is created by refusing to let pain have the final word. The strongest people are not those who never fell. They are the ones who rose after falling, learned from the wound, and kept moving with greater wisdom. They did not become powerful because life was easy. They became powerful because they survived what should have destroyed them and still chose hope. You do not need to have everything figured out to begin again. You do not need the perfect plan, the perfect confidence, or the perfect environment. You only need the courage to take the next honest step. Maybe that step is forgiving yourself. Maybe it is apologizing to someone you hurt. Maybe it is applying for the job you thought was beyond your reach. Maybe it is waking up tomorrow and choosing discipline over comfort. Maybe it is finally admitting that the life you have been living is too small for the person you are becoming. The future does not begin someday. It begins today. Every day presents a choice. You can continue rehearsing the pain, or you can begin rebuilding the future. You can keep speaking to yourself like a defeated person, or you can begin speaking to yourself like someone who is still becoming. You can stay loyal to the version of you that gave up, or you can become loyal to the version of you that still believes. That choice is simple, but it changes everything. Looking back without regret does not mean pretending nothing hurt. It means understanding that every scar taught you something, every disappointment revealed something, every delay strengthened something. The version of you reading these words is not the same person who first entered the storm. You are wiser now. You are more aware now. You have seen what survival requires. More importantly, you have seen that survival is not the end. It is the doorway to something greater. Committing to lifelong growth means accepting that your comeback is not a single event. It is a way of living. It is the daily decision to keep learning, keep healing, keep improving, and keep becoming. There will still be difficult days. There will still be moments when doubt tries to return. But now you know something you did not know before. Pain is not proof that you are failing. Sometimes pain is simply the pressure that shapes greatness. A remarkable person is not someone who never feels fear. A remarkable person is someone who refuses to let fear make every decision. A remarkable person is someone who can look at the wreckage of the past and still say, "My life is not over." A remarkable person is someone who chooses growth when comfort would be easier, gratitude when bitterness would be easier, and faith when despair would be easier. That is who you are becoming. So do not wait for a perfect sign. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait until you feel fully ready. Begin now with what you have, where you are. Take the next step, then the next after that. Let each day become evidence that your comeback is real. Let each choice become a brick in the life you are rebuilding. Let each act of courage remind you that your future is still in your hands. If your life has brought you to rock bottom, then let this be the moment you stop calling it the end. Let it become the place where your strength was born. Let it become the foundation of your confidence. Let it become the chapter that taught you how to rise. You are not finished. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are standing at the edge of something new, and the life ahead of you can still be remarkable. Your greatest comeback begins today. And this time, you are walking forward as someone who knows that the best parts of your story are still waiting to be written. You've reached the end of this audiobook, but this is not the end of your journey. In many ways, it's only the beginning. Over the course of these chapters, you've walked through pain, faced difficult truths, challenged limiting beliefs, rebuilt your confidence, and discovered that every setback carries the potential for a remarkable comeback. The lessons you've heard will only change your life if they become the actions you choose every day. Knowledge creates awareness, but consistent action creates transformation. There will still be days when life feels difficult. There will be moments when old fears return and progress seems slow. When those moments come, remember this: you have already survived challenges you once believed would break you. You are stronger, wiser, and more resilient than you realize. Don't measure your life by how many times you fall. Measure it by how many times you choose to rise. Every small step forward matters. Every positive decision matters. Every act of courage matters. They are quietly shaping the remarkable person you're becoming. As you close this audiobook, don't wait for the perfect opportunity or the perfect moment. Create momentum by taking one meaningful action today. Make the phone call. Begin the habit. Forgive yourself. Pursue the dream. Whatever your next step is, take it with confidence. Always remember that your past may explain your story, but it does not define your future. Your greatest strength is not found in avoiding adversity, but in rising above it with courage, purpose, and hope. Thank you for allowing this audiobook to be part of your journey. Wherever life takes you next, never forget this simple truth. Your comeback is not measured by where you started, it is measured by how courageously you choose to move forward. Your story is still being written. Make the next chapter your greatest one yet.